Do you have a lot of junk in your trunk? Are you all about that booty? If your answer is no to those two questions, Nissan has something they'd like to show you. This is the 2017 Nissan Rogue Sport. It's smaller than the compact 3-row Nissan Rogue, doesn't have quite as much room inside, but it's also a little less expensive. We came here to Nashville, Tennessee to see exactly what Nissan has brought for us. Now, when I'm talking about booty, of course I mean the boot, the trunk as we say in the US. This is a smaller vehicle than the Nissan Rogue. It only has 23 cubic feet of cargo room behind that second row, instead of the larger Rogue's 32 cubic feet. So if you have a lot of junk, it's not going to fit in here. But Nissan says that for couples and singles who don't yet have a small family, this should be pretty much just about perfect. The Rogue Sport shares the same platform as the European market Nissan Qashqai, which means that it's about a foot shorter than the 3-row Nissan Rogue. But if you put all of the seats down, there's actually a decent amount of space back here. Not as much as in the larger Rogue, but still adequate. Despite sharing a name with the larger Nissan Rogue, it doesn't really look anything like it. Every body panel is different on the Rogue Sport. It's got a much more aggressive front end, it sits lower, the roofline is lower, it's got larger wheels and tires, 19-inch versus 18-inch, and it's meant to look more sporty and aggressive than the more traditional Rogue. Inside the Nissan Rogue Sport, it's pretty much the same thing as the Nissan Rogue. Same dash, same doors, same good width, same decent headroom despite having a sunroof. But it also has the same multimedia system as the Rogue, and that's not necessarily a good thing. It's an older multimedia system, and it's notable for what it doesn't have. There's no Apple CarPlay, there's no Android Auto. It has navigation, but the screen is kind of small. The interface really isn't up to date like we've seen in a lot of competitor vehicles. And if Nissan is serious about the Rogue Sport going after young buyers and millennials, that could be a problem. While the front seat in the Nissan Rogue Sport is roughly the same size and shape as that of the larger Nissan Rogue, it's in back where you really notice the changes. The platform is shorter, and so you've lost a little over 2 inches of legroom in the back, but really, it's not so bad. The Nissan Rogue, the larger one, has tons of rear legroom and a seat that moves backwards and forwards. This seat is fixed. You can't shift it forwards and backwards, but really, you're not going to be uncomfortable in here. Driving the Nissan Rogue Sport is perfectly pleasant. You've got 141 horsepower from a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and that doesn't sound like a whole lot because it's really not a whole lot. I really wish they would have kept the 170 horsepower 2.5-liter 4-cylinder from the larger Nissan Rogue. It would have put a lot more sport into the Nissan Rogue Sport. You've got a continuously variable transmission as well, and it's not so bad. It's actually pretty well suited to around town driving in particular. You've got plenty of power between around 2,000 RPM and 4,000 RPM, but if you floor it like you're trying to get onto a highway, there really isn't a whole lot of grunt to go along with this engine. It's really best for stop-and-go traffic, cut and thrust kind of stuff around an urban environment. The handling in the Nissan Rogue Sport is really pretty good. They've changed the suspension a little bit from the European version, and in an unusual move, they made it stiffer. The European version is a little bit softer, it's more luxurious. This one they really wanted to make more sporty, so they gave it a more sporty suspension. And even with these 19-inch wheels, the ride around town isn't bad at all. It absorbs bumps very well, it's pretty much quiet out on the highway. The only thing you get is a little bit of road noise from the tires. Air rush is pretty much minimized. It's a pleasant vehicle to drive, but it's not all that sporty because of the lack of engine power. The compact dimensions of the Nissan Rogue Sport really make it best suited towards the urban environment. It's not all that big. It fits in a lot of spaces very easily. It's got plenty of power for around town use up to about 30-35 miles per hour. And you can fit 5 people and a little bit of stuff in it. So really, for the price, it's not a bad combination. The Nissan Rogue Sport starts at $22,380 when it goes on sale later this week, and that's about $2,400 less than the larger Nissan Rogue. That's a pretty decent deal, but there are a couple things that you don't get for this price. You don't get extra USB ports, you don't get a power lift gate, but for some people, that's not really that important. You can read more about the Nissan Rogue Sport on Cars.com.